All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to For Wild Places' 10th trail chat. Bit of a milestone there. My name's Will. My pronouns are he, him. I'm based in Port Kembla, just south of Sydney on Dharawal land. Before I go any further, I'd just like to pay our respects to traditional owners. Acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We are pretty stoked today to have as a special guest someone who I don't think needs much of an intro to For Wild Places friends, members, and supporters. He's a fierce environmental advocate, a kick-ass ultra trail runner, and just a generally inspiring person, someone I want to be like when I grow up, although I think I'm about 20 years older than him, so I've got some work to do there. But please welcome Majell Backhausen, known as Madge. Thanks, Madge.
Hey, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me along.
Oh, pleasure. Now, we just noted you're in Sydney now, but you've just been in Tassie. Yeah, what are you up to down there?
Yeah. Just says a lot about my carbon footprint over this week. But yeah, I was just in Tassie. Tassie on the weekend. We had the 5th Takina Trail actually down there, down in Takina Tarkine, northwest of Tassie. Where over the past 5 years we've brought people from the trail running community down into the Tarkine and used it as a way for people to experience it and also to raise funds for the Bob Brown Foundation to have Takina continually campaigned to have it listed as World Heritage National Park and returned to Aboriginal ownership. Happy to report that everyone came along and went home safe and sound, and also that we've raised now just over $380,000 for the campaign this year. So massive, biggest fundraiser the Bob Brown Foundation's ever had and continues to have. And I know Belinda's on the call. She was down there. She said she had a good time. It seems like it was, good times all around. So a bit fried in a good way after that. But so that was the weekend. Yeah, good times.
That is brilliant. I've never done it, but that race is pretty special to For Wild Places. It was, well, you'd know more than me, Madge, but it was pretty much the inspiration to form For Wild Places, to try and generate more of this sports activism.
Yeah, it was actually. It was kind of the place where all the founding members met, and when you meet in an environment like that with like-minded people, all kind of striving to achieve the same thing, conversations and ideas pop up, and For Wild Places was one of them. And from that, I guess you could say that other things have been born from it as well, such as like the Pilliga Ultra, and also the Great Forest Trail Marathon, events with a very similar model of kind of sports activism, where it is really like bringing people to a place that's under threat, allowing them to connect to it, and then also using their resources to raise funds for organizations that are really kind of on the front line of protecting those places.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, good segue there, because, like lots of our guests, an hour is just not enough to talk to you long enough, Madge. But one thing people were really keen to hear more about is this campaign down in the Great Forests. So you've recently run 273K across a spectacular area in Victoria. If you don't mind, can you give us an idea why you were doing that?
Yeah, I mean, the actual run took place almost a year ago now.
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's but like, no one would know that, because that's part of it, right? You kind of do these things. Some people do them and speak about them straight away, which is part of the communication, and that's fine. But for that specific project, it was very much kind of under wraps for a long time, because it was part of a communication tool for that area to be able to educate people about it and introduce people to it. And the film, which documents obviously the traverse that I did across the Great Forest, as well as interweaves a lot of scientific knowledge and kind of first-hand accounts from people on the front lines of protecting that place. It weaves all of that together into a film, a 4-part film at the moment, which is available on Patagonia YouTube. But yeah, I suppose to answer your question, man, like at the end of the day, you know, like I first started working with Patagonia in 2020, and I first heard about this area in Victoria's Central Highlands that was under threat. It contained the mountain ash trees, and the mountain ash tree ecosystem was on the verge of collapse, and it still is. And one of their ways for protecting it was designating the whole area there as a national park. And I just saw a map of that park, and I thought the only thing to do is to run across it. Like, what else? Like that's just what you do. Why wouldn't you want to do that? And through that, we'll learn so much. We'll experience it in different ways. Or for myself as a trail runner, I'll be able to experience it in a different way, a way that I love. And yeah, and born from that was the crossing or the traverse of it, and then the film used that as kind of the common thread throughout the 4 episodes and the documentary, really, to celebrate those lands and the people that are protecting it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I was going to do a plug actually for folks watching on YouTube afterwards. We'll make sure we put links in the down below. I've checked out the first 3 episodes. It's beautiful, but also it'll make you angry, but also very inspired. So definitely check that out. And there's some also hilarious bits like Madge bagging out Bo Miles's beard and some other little episodes like that. Hey, Madge, I was going to ask, do you know, because I've been looking into some national park stuff up here in New South Wales because I live in this beautiful escarpment, and it's quite complex actually, who owns it, who runs it, and that kind of thing. And for several years, there was like no national parks declared in Australia, but it seems like now there's a big tract that's just been purchased in New South Wales. It seems like it's kind of back on the agenda, but like, are you able to give us an update on how the campaign's going in terms of declaring the Great Forest National Park?
Yeah, so you know, a group of very passionate locals back in the day, after the 2009 fires. After the 2009 fires, a group of people came together and were like, okay, how can we protect this area, because we don't want to see our backyard get destroyed again like that. And those individuals have been working on this project for 9 years now, and at the very beginning they said that they were gonna, that, you know, they had to give it 10 years for it to be somewhat successful. So they're working in a number of ways, quite complex ways, in some ways confidential, because the system that needs to be put in place, or the system that needs to be influenced to create a national park, is quite complex. It's quite legislative, it's very political, and it also has a lot of other people wanting the absolute opposite for those kind of areas. But in saying all of that, you know, it's had a lot of progress over the last 9 years, and I don't know exactly how close it is. I feel like that is something that not many people know, because it's, you know, change of governments, change of influences and stuff like that. It can almost change with the wind. But what I would say is that one of the things that we're really pushing with this is that what we need to do is end native forest logging, because if we end native forest logging, then that whole area is protected. And other areas like down in East Gippsland, where a lot of some of the work that For Wild Places is looking at working on in the future, which is equally under threat. And so if we end native forest logging in the state, we're going to be able to first and foremost protect the endangered ecosystems and the endangered areas within the state. And then from that step, we can then work on designation of a national park and work on those other kind of more intricate solutions to to the issue of ecosystems collapse. But so, to answer the question, it's kind of, I don't know the answer to that, but they've had incredible progress over the last 9 years. They're still working on it, and they're always positive. Like Sarah Reese behind the Great Forest National Park proposal, Steve Meacher, who heads up the Friends of the Leadbeater's Possum, and other people like Professor David Lindenmayer, who have been working on this campaign for so long. They're getting incredible traction with cases at court banning logging companies from certain areas, and yeah, like you look at the recent shutdown of one of the paper mills in Victoria, and it's like a huge win, because it really means that the actual industry of paper and logging for paper products and pulp is reducing in other sectors. It's not just us wanting it to be cancelled, it's actually the people that are using up that material. They're also wanting it to end because they don't see the economic future in it. So yeah, I mean, it's a really common question though. Like everyone's like, so how close is this national park? And it's just not that simple. Like it's not like there's so much complexity to it, and we know that once we say, if we did end native forest logging like it has happened in Western Australia, then that would be a point where we could then work from, knowing that these areas are like protected because they're not going to get logged. But yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, for sure. So that film is called End to an End. Where, again, we'll post links up and stuff. Other than checking that out, Madge, and also we'll share the website. What kinds of things can people do to support that campaign going forward?
Yeah, I think like one of the big things and obvious things is like getting out there and experiencing it for yourself and really building your own connection with that place. And then the next, and then another thing, which is probably of equal importance, is there's a number of organizations already out there, and they're already doing incredible work on the front lines of protecting this area. There's Friends of the Leadbeater's Possum, there's Wildlife of the Central Highlands, otherwise known as Watch. There is Environmental Justice Australia, there's Friends of the Earth Melbourne, there's King Lake Friends of the Forest, there's the Great Forest National Park proposal, Great Forest Trail Marathon. There's like all these organizations that are all doing different but like really, really impactful work in that area already. And it's really like, I know, back like, Yvonne Chenard, the creator of Patagonia, has said numerous times, like it's up to all of us to step up and use the resources we have to have like a positive impact, right? And we're watching this on YouTube and stuff like that. We're probably in like a nice place or a nice office, and generally we've got a lot of excess resource, be it time, be it our skills, be it money, and we can surely find a way to part with some of that and give it to organizations that are out there doing the hard work on the front lines. And so I would say get involved with those organizations. They're all listed on the Patagonia website under the Great Forest page, and they are all doing awesome stuff. And it's not like boring work, like wilderness, Wildlife of the Central Highlands Watch, they go out and spotlight at night. Like they're out there doing like epic stuff, and they're just like, you see them in the film in the first episode, like they'll go out and they'll just search for threatened species throughout the night, and like epic stuff. Like, and you go out there with a group of people. It's not boring work, and they're getting real results, which is awesome. So yeah, highly recommend looking into that. And yeah, it's just such a range of different ways you can get involved. So yeah, I think that's probably the most important. For sure.
Yeah, awesome. No, I think it's a really important point around not reinventing the wheel and really supporting people already doing amazing things. So yeah, that's again, we'll make sure we share those links and stuff. Thanks heaps. I love that bit in the film, the Yeah, the folks that go out and find the endangered species, and then they can actually get declared. It's like a 200-meter exclusion zone or something around that bit.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, to explain they go out there at night, because at night that's when animals like the greater glider, leadbeater's possum, which is Victoria's state emblem, and it's like critically endangered. The next stage of that is extinction. So they're out there and they spotlight. So they go out there with real powerful torches, look through the trees, and if they find one, they've got a GPS mapper. They map where it was found. They record video evidence. They send that information to the Department of like conservation or whatever it is, and then they put a 200-meter buffer in that area around where the sighting is, and no logging can happen in that area. So that's awesome because it protects that potential habitat. The only issue with that is that sometimes those animals can travel like very far through the night, and they can be out of their actual home habitat. So there's a petite piece of forest that's protected, but it's not actually their home. And then, I think they've protected something like 2,500 hectares of land since 2014. It's something awesome like that. One of the stats is in the film, and it's and that's just like so rad. It's so good. And they've also done, the Friends of Leadbeater's possum have also done work on a tree species called the tree G-bung that went to court recently and was won to protect certain tree species, which also protected a whole bunch of other forests. And really reduces the logging industry having access to native forest, which is public land as well, which is like also another mind-blowing layer to it all. There's so much. When we were creating this film, I don't want to go on a tangent right now, but when we were creating this film, there's like these forests are public. They are the catchments for Melbourne's water supply, right? Which is going to be soon to be the biggest city in Australia. They're also getting logged by a state-owned company that gets like funding to do it from the government, like up to like 119 or 120 million dollars a year to keep the industry afloat. And then all of that mainly goes to either waste product, or it goes to stuff like pallets, or it goes to paper and pulp. It goes to like disposable cardboard and coffee cups and stuff like that. So it's like this publicly owned forests are getting logged with taxpayers' money and getting turned into coffee cups. Like the whole thing is just like, what the F? And then the layer on top of that is that it's threatening the water supply to Melbourne, right? And if you log a lot of native forests, it makes it all way more flammable. So you've got this added layer of like, increased fire risk, which obviously from 2019, 2020 fires, it's like, we don't want to fucking go there. And then 2009, Black Saturday and all that stuff. Like, it's just layers and layers of like, oh my God. But at the end of the day, like, it's also public forest, so you can go out there and run and enjoy yourself and really just kind of connect with the place. And I think that's really special, because it's absolutely magnificent out there, like absolutely magnificent. Like the mountain ash is the tallest flowering plant in the world, and we can go run just right beneath it and just just totally froth out on it. It's sick.
Yeah, man, when you put those things together, it's just every single one in isolation is ridiculous, but it's all happening at the same time. It makes no sense. And I mean, that's why something like this film is so important, because I think so many people just don't know. But if people get an understanding of what's happening, they are much more likely to get involved and help stop it. What was I going to ask? Oh yeah, on the water. It was mentioned that also after logging, then you've got all the regrowth, which just sucks up so much more water. Just another element of ridiculously in that this is the drinking water for what's going to become our biggest city. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah, it really is. But like the real cool thing is that I think it just hasn't, like, a lot of people just haven't known about it. You know, it's on the doorstep of Melbourne. It's like an hour away from the CBD. And I honestly think that, like, as soon as every Melburnian finds out about it, or not even every Melburnian, just like a few of them and starts to really speak loudly about it, it's just going to topple in a second. Like, people are going to be like, why have we not done this like a long time ago? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's kind of, it's up to everyone just to have small conversations about it. Just start to create awareness about like what is actually going on the doorsteps of Melbourne, even if you don't live there. And just like, this is nuts, because it just is purely nuts. Like, it's so crazy. And we can totally do something about it, because that old saying of like, you know, don't underestimate the power of a small group of people to change the world, because in fact that's all that's ever that's all that ever has changed the world, is like small groups of individuals that are dedicated and passionate, and they want to change something because they deep down know it's for the better, and then they go ahead and they just rally and rally and rally and don't give up and do it. Yeah, so it's happening. It's just gonna take time.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. Hey, listen, we can come back to this topic in if folks have got questions. Before we move to that, though, I did just want to ask Madge if you could let us know about the Footprints running camp, just which is coming to Australia. Just give us an idea, just what that camp's about, how people can get involved, if that's still a possibility. But just hoping to get some info on that.
Yeah, so I mean, Footprints is a camp that was created over in America by a good friend and an incredible athlete called Dakota Jones. And yeah, he created this camp because he too has been a professional runner for a long time, and then just realized like there's more to this whole game of life, or game of being an athlete, than just running and trying to win. And so I guess he used his position in the sport to help create awareness about the environmental issues that we're facing. And his camp has kind of developed over the last few years in different ways. And I was just very keen to get a similar model over here in Australia, because I feel like, we've just got to continue to make these things available to everyone, no matter what country you're in. And so, the Footprints camp is happening on April 20th to 25th in Warburton on Wurundjeri land, which is in the Great Forest. And we're going to be working closely with the grantees, the people I listed before, the organisations I listed before who work in that area. And we're going to bring a whole bunch of individuals. There's no like trail running skill level or no age limits to it. It's kind of anyone who wants to get involved because they feel they want to get involved, bring him to the place and really use the knowledge of people that have been before, and also the people that are on the front lines there, to start to create, leaders in that space of environmental protection, and also use people's resources and skills, like I said before, to be able to work together in saving these places or continually protecting these places. And the cool thing about that is that, if you facilitate, like if you create an environment or facilitate a healthy space where people can be creative, use their skills, be honest, get educated on certain topics, and use all of that in a really good way, you just don't know what can come of it. You look at something like Takina Trail, which was the idea of two people that came together after watching the film Takina. And 5 years later, that it's raised like 1.3 or 1.5 million dollars for an environmental organization. And it's just like that is a model I'd never seen in the world of trail running before. And I've been to a lot of countries who do a lot of trail running, and it's just like, it's actually not that complex, but it's just it's possible. So that's really exciting. But if you want to apply, it's footprints.org, and then you can go to the Australia page, have a look at the camp there, and we've got some incredible people that are getting involved as mentors to help, be that education piece. Bo Miles is coming along, who's part of the film as well. Kida Ashman, who's a doctor in that space, and knows a lot about extinct and threatened species. It's just going to be yeah, it's going to be pretty sick. And yeah, we look forward. I'm not sure, like, you know, how, because the thing is like, I know for Wild Places is also creating a camp as well, and that's epic because it's like we're all working on the same, like we're all working in the same way to just like bring solutions to this problem. So it's yeah, it's going to be exciting to be able to share knowledge about what we've learned and how we can just like continue to come up with the best way to yeah, deal with the root problems and the root causes.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, does anyone, we've got a few people on the call. Does anyone, well, I've actually got a bunch more questions for Madge, but I'm always conscious that I don't just want to be about my questions. If anyone has some questions for Madge, just jump in, or if you're having trouble jumping in, just chuck, I think you can, you know, put your hand up in Zoom or chuck your name down in the chat, and I'll try and I'll try and get you in there. But does anyone want to ask Madge any questions? A question?
Yeah, I got one for you, Madge.
Tom, how you going?
Good, dude. How are you?
Doing well, mate. Sorry if that announcement's loud.
It's all good. Keeping in mind that the logging industry in that particular area is propped up by the government, did you have any conversations during the making of the film or the research or anything with people who are arguing for logging native forest? And what were some of their arguments for keeping the industry going, keeping in mind like it doesn't make any sense, it's not even profitable? What were some of the arguments from the other side, or was it just purely like defensive, protecting jobs, that sort of thing?
Yeah, you know, like a lot of it does come down to that. I think it's kind of like as well, almost like the whole situation with and I know everyone's probably got their own opinion, but it's probably a lot like the situation with wild brumbies up in the Kosciuszko National Park. It's like, it's this kind of heritage industry that people feel like is tied to an identity, and that's really hard to kind of take away from people. If they're someone of a family of loggers, so to speak, like, and you're saying, well, we're going to stop that. Well, you're really kind of threatening who they are as a human and their identity within their community. And so I think that one that's a big thing, because it's real, like, you know, and we don't want to come in and say, well, you have to change who you are tomorrow. You know, funny enough, like Bo Miles lives right on the edge of that part of the world, and he comes from a family that has really close ties with the logging industry. We got to kind of have discussions through him with a lot of the locals and stuff like that. And yeah, it really does come down to, like, you know, a lifestyle and an industry, and taking that away is like, well, I mean, we'd all feel the same if anyone said that we have to stop running tomorrow. Like, it just wasn't healthy for the world. But yeah, so like that's a big part of it. I think also, yeah, that like the jobs thing is quite big as well. But a lot of it kind of falls short in the sense that there are so many jobs in that industry, like responsible harvesting of timber. If you look at it as that, then there's so many jobs, because there's huge amounts of plantation timber provides all the fiber, the wood pulp and the wood fiber that we need to do what we want to do. And it doesn't have to come from native forests. Like critically endangered leadbeater's possum is not living in plantation timber, like in areas of plantation timber. They're living in old growth or very old growth native forest, and we're asking for that to be stopped, not the production and harvesting of wood fiber. That's like, because that can be done differently if it's like, and done in a way that like is is, I guess, more responsible. And that's a whole nother topic. But it's kind of like, yeah, it's an interesting one because it's like there's definitely still jobs in that space. It's just ending an industry that is like native forest logging as opposed to logging as a whole. So I understand the argument there, but it's kind of like, well, how do we transition? How do we work with transitioning? Because in that too, like a number of mills have been asked to be shut down, and those mills get given these huge grants from the government to transition into the future. And you just kind of wonder where that funding goes and stuff like that. And you know, there's also other conversations like with traditional owners about ending native forest logging, and some traditional owner groups are like, well, you know what, like if we end native forest logging, does that prevent us from doing selective cultural logging within those areas? And some people, like, depends what the paperwork says, but it might be like that would. And then traditional owners, if they're managing the land but they can't log it as they would, like in their traditional management ways, then you kind of got a bit of friction there too. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot to it. And yeah, I think, and like there's so much more to it. It's like, if you designate it a national park, like there's so many caveats to that. Can you still fish in a national park? Can you forward drive in a national park? Can you ride motorbikes? Can you take your dog? Can you go camp? And those are big things too, because people want to recreate in those spaces, just like we do as trail runners. We want to recreate there. But, you know, like if a four-wheel driver can't recreate there, then we're saying, well, we can because we have less impact, but you can't because you're a four-wheel driver. But so there's a lot of that too, because that's part of people's, you know, identity and what they love as a lifestyle. If they live more in the kind of country, and that's just what they know. Hunting as well is a big one. So yeah, man, there's a lot there, but it's yeah, there's very evident that there's pushback against it, and that is a whole conversation that is probably happening in many spaces to get it all out, to allow people to be heard and allow conversations to happen.
Hey, sorry, Tom, you go.
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, cool. Thanks for answering. I fully get like the identity that's tied up with it for the industry, but what I don't get with my little knowledge about this is how that is dictating the government's decisions on this. Because I don't see the logging industry as, you know, the cigarette industry or the gun lobbyists in the USA. Like, I don't feel like they have that power. So for me, when I look at this issue, I'm just like, what? How's the government, you know, not, you know, making the correct decisions?
Yeah, yeah. When those kind of issues have been raised or discussed, a lot of things get brought up about the union, CFMEU, how that ties into political funding, how that ties into, you know, Dan Andrews' Labor government, traditionally very much like pro jobs, like pro supportive on union and stuff like that. And so I think that would be like a big web to delve into, like important to look into for sure. But I guess like I've always like I haven't really given my time to looking deeper and deeper into that. But it does sound like there's a lot of ties to that history within the way that unions work with governments, and particular governments or particular representatives in governments like work with unions, and that involves a lot of industries such as logging. And yeah, it's like, just goes to say, like, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a lot of people to create a lot of noise and have a lot of influence. Sometimes it's just a few people that are like super loud and passionate, and they will continue to kind of get their way for whatever reasons it is behind the scenes.
Yeah, cool.
I was
but I bet you could do a PhD on that one for sure.
Oh yeah, Tom's question made me think. There's some kind of parallels with the area I am. The history of the Illawarra is really coal mining and steel making, and there's a lot of parallels in terms of communicating with the coal miners, and of course the union are a massive factor, and parts of the community trying to create that tension between greenies and jobs, where a lot of greenies, a lot of environmentalists are actually really interested in maintaining jobs, whether you call it a just transition or something else. Like, it's really frustrating when that tension is is fostered and pushed, and really you try and divide people. But just to follow up on Tom's question, Madge, when you were meeting with those folks through Bo, was there an openness to what you were saying? Like, was that must have been hard, yeah? Like, were you just getting written off, or was there an openness there to what you were saying?
No, I mean, there's like, there's certainly discussion that can be had. And I think, at the end of the day, like, everyone's like, a good human, and like and everyone wants, at the end of the day, wants what they need for their basic living. They want to be able to they want to be able to see a future that's got safety in it, so they can provide for their family, live on the land that they've been able to get, and just kind of, no one wants to have these epic swings in life, because that's quite unsettling. And although change is like the only constant in life, it doesn't make it any easier to accept sometimes as humans. So yeah, I mean, there's certainly openness to, I think, I guess for every conversation, it depends how you approach it and the mood that gets set. And I think you can always have a conversation with someone with a completely different view if you approach it in the right way, and the kind of the space is created to do that. If you just go in there and start throwing your own opinions around, like, you can quickly result in an argument and get nowhere. But like, you can go in there with a very, very different approach and have a very, very different outcome when it comes to conversation. And that's not limited to discussions about ending industries and native forest logging and stuff like that. It's like continuous throughout any conversation you have in life.
Yeah, I actually really liked in the film how you and Bo had that chat about looking after the loggers, in the sense of, it didn't come across as greenies who don't give a shit about jobs. It actually came across as really thoughtful, and that had been taken into mind. So anyway, that's another plug for the film. Sorry. Does anyone else have a question or two for Madge? Well, we've still got a little bit of time, so feel free at any time to jump in. But if there's no questions at the moment, I'll just keep going with mine. Because I read somewhere, Madge, that you're an engineer and were working offshore for a while. And I was just thinking, how the heck did an offshore engineer get into trail running? If you don't mind, can you let us know how, like, what brought you to trail running? Were you a runner, like a track runner, but before you got into trail running? Like, what got you into the sport?
Yeah, no, definitely wasn't a track runner. Like I played a lot of like AFL footy when I was like going through my teenage years, or more so from like 16 onwards, and then I moved to London, and then kind of started commuting to get to work via running, and that turned into kind of training for road marathons, because a few friends were right into that, and then I ended up doing a trail marathon, and I think I just really enjoyed it. Didn't realize it at the time, and that led me to meeting a lot of other people within that trail running world and ultra running world, and just kind of learning about things and sparking curiosity led me into doing, I guess, longer and longer trail events. And and within all of that, I was working as an engineer in London, and got moved up to Scotland and started to work offshore. And there's some pretty funny moments there, just like training on a treadmill, and like if you incline the treadmill too much, your head would hit the roof of the gym when you're offshore living on a barge. And then so like some of the treadmills had these holes cut in above them, so your head would like stick just through the roof a little bit. And I mean, that was some pretty you'd be out offshore for like 2 weeks at a time. That'd be some pretty solid training sessions. But and I guess I would go from one extreme to the other. I'd be offshore for 2 weeks, and then I'd go down to like the Alps and the French Alps, and I'd spend a few days down in Chamonix, and I'd go run in the mountains there, and learnt about races like UTMB, and it all just was a huge pull through my own curiosity, I suppose, and just enjoyment. Like, it was just fucking rad, like just getting out there and running long distances, and just that world of running 100 miles. It's all just like, it was never really scary. It was just like, oh, it's 100% something that sounds pretty good to me. So like, it just, I don't know, it was just following a bit of curiosity, but also doing something that I really, really enjoyed, and kind of, I didn't really come up with too many excuses not to pursue that enjoyment and that curiosity, which I think, don't get me wrong, like, a lot of people have families, a lot of people have like other responsibilities and commitments, and for me, I didn't have that, and to a large part I still don't have that today. So I really do kind of follow that curiosity and just see where it goes. And I mean, there's a million other things that kind of happened within that time, and people I met, and books that I read, that all kind of, lead you down these different paths that you didn't really expect. But yeah, it was pretty interesting, like living offshore in just a kind of like a steel box. It's kind of like you're living in a petrol station, really. Like, you could imagine living in a petrol station, right? You rock up and you fill up your car, and like, you've got the fumes of petrol, and it's just concrete. It's like kind of greases everywhere. It's just kind of like not a place you'd want to love to live. And there's nothing alive out there. Like, nothing is living. I mean, you're in the middle of the ocean, the ocean is a huge amount of life, but everything around you is very dead. Like, the food that you're eating is not very fresh. The people that you're with are either like smoking a shitload, or they're not many people are very active. And then you go from that extreme to the extreme of like being out on a trail in the middle of the French Alps running, and you've got like fresh blueberries around you, and like the people are like all saying hello, and camping, and just like, it's just like one extreme to the other. And I just realized which end of that extreme I kind of enjoyed more. And I've been back and done engineering jobs since, to kind of like fund the other side of life. And but it's definitely like it's definitely a different world. Yeah.
Actually, and I read an interview with you where you just said something that really struck me. It was something like as an adult you went running, and you were just reminded of what it felt like to be a kid, just running through the mud, splashing, getting filthy. And I just remember thinking at the time, far out, imagine how much better the world would be if we all just got in touch with what we liked as kids. You know what I mean? Like, just literally just in touch with nature, not messed up by all the problems. Anyway, I just that comment really resonated with me. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I feel like trail running is this gateway back to things you enjoyed when you were younger, like that weren't layered with, like, even now, like, go outside when it's raining. Like, so many people are like, oh, I don't want to go outside now because it's raining. It's like, it like literally makes you feel alive as a human. Like, it literally makes you feel things that you otherwise don't ever feel. And that's just like feeling alive. Like, it's so simple. Like, it is so simple sometimes.
It is.
But yeah.
No, it's awesome. Although there are also extremes, like Tom, I'm looking at you. I remember seeing images of you running around that dam in like almost waist deep in water, and I was thinking, whoa, sometimes the elements can get a little bit too much.
Yeah, I mean, sure. That's when you feel alive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, like, Tom, like, how do you explain that? How do you explain that contrast of being like so depleted in many ways, but then, like, do you feel alive in that moment, or is it upon reflection that you feel more alive, and then that's what brings you back to those moments, or want to do those moments again? Like, where is it?
Yeah, I feel that's where I practice feeling alive, and then I can apply that in my life outside of running, like work stress, relationship stress, all that kind of stuff outside of running. To me, it's kind of a little bit more manufactured because there's so many, layers and stuff to it. But when you're running and you encounter that stuff, it's like the most genuine feeling of feeling alive. And I try and kind of take that and then apply it to my life.
That's awesome. If anyone's watching who doesn't, sorry, if anyone is watching who doesn't know what Tom did last year, I lose track of years. Anyway, check out Project Run Forever to get inspired at an amazing feat that Tom was part of last year. Hey, does anyone else? Yeah, sorry, just chuck your hand up or jump in if you'd like to ask Madge a question.
There's about a million people on this call that could speak to that. I'm looking at it like Paige, Jonathan, you could say something. Belinda, you could say something. You've just run 62K in the Tarkine. That's the furthest you've ever run. Jonathan, I remember seeing you after 50 miles at Great Southern Endurance Run. I don't think you've ever done that before. Chris, I mean, Chris is just a beast. I think he was out at Bus Run Bus in America with myself and like Ricky Gates and a bunch of crew. And I think Chris was like, dude, how could you not eat meat? And I'm like, dude, eating meat's really bad for the environment. And then like he messages me a month later and he's like, oh my God, dude, I haven't eaten meat for like a week. It's crazy.
So Madge, I just wanted to say thanks for being a great inspiration. I've been vegetarian now for 2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Decent,
so after that In-N-Out burger extravaganza on Bus Run Bus, I came home and unfortunately lost both my parents to cancer that same year. And just kind of looked back on our conversations and I was like just so inspired by how you are and the things that you do and like the Take 3 for the trail. And I know I got with you and started a little thing here with trying to get litter off the streets in Tampa, Florida. And now I'm really looking forward to going into my state forests and seeing what kind of a difference I can make there after watching your Patagonia movie. So thanks, dude.
Right on, bro. Yeah, you made it happen as much as I did, man. So big kudos to you. It's so gangster. I love that, man. And there's like
never felt better.
It's so good. And like I remember like, and I don't get me wrong, this isn't a conversation about convincing everyone to change what they do, but like I remember just the very first year doing something like becoming vegetarian is like it can have a really good impact in many ways. It might not be for everyone, and that's totally fine. You've got to do what's right for your own health and the way your body works and stuff. But I remember the first year I didn't eat any meat. Afterwards, I was like, man, it's kind of cool. Like not one animal died because I wanted to eat it this year. And I just thought that was rad, like regardless of how I felt, because I had some really shit moments. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty rad. But yeah, Beck's on the call. Beck, she came second at Takina on the weekend. She that was the furthest she'd ever run as well as Belinda. Like, I'm sure she just went through a vision quest, which is something else.
I do
and
have
Jane's
a question
there.
for you now.
Oh yeah, rad.
So I only started running about a year ago when I heard about Takina, when I heard about that trail run. So I started running then. I hadn't run for 20 years before that. So I guess a question would be, how would you recommend for someone like me who's quite a new runner to build up conditioning to be able to handle trails like that? Well, what's the best way to do that?
Like, I mean, in short, because there is a lot, but in short, the golden rule is remain healthy and uninjured. So it's like really take care of yourself. Like you never push yourself like in training 100% because it's just the risk of injury and becoming unhealthy is very, very large if you do that. So remain healthy and uninjured. So take care of your nutrition, take care of your sleep, take care of your hydration, like super important, because running will always break you down. And then it's in your recovery and it's in your rest where you actually grow stronger and benefit from all the stress you put on your body that you get through running. So that's one. And then it's just consistency over time, like continually consistent training, so it's instead of running once 20K a week, it's better to break that down and do like 4 5K runs. And that's just an example of how consistency will work better. And it's just like, it just takes time. Like it takes weeks and months and even years to to build your body into that space where it can see stress from running as a healthier stress than a threatening stress on your body. You know, ligaments, muscles, joints, like they're all gonna take time to respond to running because it's quite a high impact. It can be quite full on. So you just need to really balance that and really kind of take care of yourself within that space. Because yeah, it's very easy to get too carried away and just want to run and get into that concept of, well, if I've run 50K a week and I've been able to achieve this, surely if I run 100K a week, I'll be able to achieve so much more. But it doesn't always work like that. That's like a very bad trap to fall into. It's like understanding how you can stress your body, recover, adapt, grow, and then stress again. Yeah, rest, recover. It's like it's a if you look at it in that space and more like holistically, then there's a greater chance that you'll have a longer and healthier existence within the space of running, trail running. Yeah. So yeah, and just like be easy on yourself. You know, some days you just don't feel like running as much or running as hard, or you know, and you just need an easy day. And there's just like nothing stopping you from backing it off a bit and just taking care of yourself, because it comes back to that golden rule. Like, you're not doing any training if you're injured or if you're unhealthy. Like if your hormonal system's whacked out or anything like that, like it's really kind of detrimental for your whole life, not just your running life. So yeah, consistency, enjoy it, remain healthy, and then just like have patience with it. Like you got to be patient to just like understand that. One of the best kind of analogies is like, you know, like old phone books, old white pages or yellow page phone books, right? They're like indestructible. They're like thick. They're so indestructible. Like you couldn't tear it, anything like that. But if you look at them, it's like they're made up of the thinnest pages, right? And your life as a runner, you can become bulletproof like a yellow pages, but it's just one day at a time. Like every little bit of training you do is just one thin page. So like not one page makes or breaks the book, but consistently over time, if you layer it on, you'll just build yourself into be more bulletproof as a runner, just like a yellow pages book.
There you go.
So yeah, it just takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about my nephews, about how I'm not sure I'd be able to tell that story because we're fast approaching a time where people won't know what those books are.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. It doesn't work for an iPhone, I don't think.
Any other questions for Madge, or does anyone want to speak on recent epic experiences?
Do a bit of a plug. Warburton is a town that's, I suppose, at the base of the proposed Great Forest National Park, and it's an amazing spot. If people ever come to Victoria, if you're not from there and you want to go and check it out, there's an event there next weekend called the Warby Trail Fest, and Hillary and Liz from For Wild Places are launching the traction event program there. So if anyone's in the area, it's a great spot to get to, and had the good fortune to spend some time in that sort of national forest area up around Mount Baw and that as well. It's an awesome spot to get out for a trail run or a hike, or take the kids, or a mountain bike, or whatever. So it's worth protecting. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a stunning area. 100%.
Awesome.
And you've got the start of the Yarra River there too, so you can go for a run, have a dip in the river. Like it's a beautiful place.
Awesome. We'll yeah, thanks for that, Shane. We'll chuck those links in. Actually, we'll do a follow-up email and chuck those links in the YouTube as well. Folks, we're getting fairly close to the hour window, but before we wind up, I did just want to ask Madge, I know there's the Footprints camp, but what else you got coming up this year?
What else? Well, I mean, we're continuing the campaign we have with Patagonia, and thank you for not shopping here. as a big kind of one of our biggest environmental campaigns that's happening at the moment. And then for myself, like I'm not exactly sure just yet where that's going to go. I think at the moment I'm looking at potentially going and running the Buffalo Stampede 100K up in Bright. And I did get a place in UTMB this year as well. So it would be, they're kind of like two things that I've definitely got on the radar. And it's just kind of like balancing life out leading up to those two things that will, hopefully get me to them. So it's a bit of a couple of things that, just see what happens there. But I guess it's and then like you said, working on footprints and just I guess continuing to like have small actions towards like this whole world, this new world we've got that's like sports activism, and just encouraging more and more people to continue to trail run and continue to be a part of this community, as well as just think about how they can use their resources a little bit to, help shape a better future for other people to be able to enjoy what we've been able to enjoy so far.
Absolutely. Love it. Oh, well, thanks so much.
I think you guys have got a couple of events coming up. I think is Pilliga going ahead again this year, or is that info that's not released yet?
Yeah, no. Pilliga is going ahead in early September. I think, Red Joe and everything will be live soon, actually. So keep an eye out for that. So obviously the same place back up in the Pilliga. We're probably thinking about just doing the same route. It's the same courses. So that'll be awesome. And also, what Shane mentioned, keep an eye out for the traction events down in Victoria. We've got like 4 or 5 coming up. But we'll make sure we post links in the email coming out and on the YouTube. And also, if you're not already, check out For Wild Places membership. All income from membership just goes straight into For Wild Places to help us plan and organise our next events and keep the wheel turning. So if you just go to our website, there's a little membership tab where you can find out some more information. But we might leave it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and especially massive thanks to you, Madge. You really are an inspiration, and I just really hope we can keep in touch. And to be honest, I'd love to have you back on another chat a bit later on. It'd be awesome to do a follow-up just to keep talking, because this chat has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's awesome to see like such a good, healthy crew of people as well. Like, I'm always like quality over quantity, and it's just like skipping through these slides and seeing who's on this call. I'm like, fuck, bunch of legends. This group of whatever, it's like 11 people. Like, that's all we need to change the world. Like, we could like literally do it. We've just got to be really, really loud about it, really considered in what we say, and like that's all we need. Like, you look at all the incredible movements, and we watched this incredible film called The Giants, a bit of a biography like of Bob Brown, and just it's unreal what people have been able to do within the civil rights movement, within the movement for like equal equality for women in the space of voting and everything that's come about from that. Also like equal rights for gay and lesbian and the rainbow community, and just like there's so many things that like we look back on now and just think like, how could that have been that way, and how did a small group of people change the whole world through just like standing up and just saying like enough is enough. And I'm sure like you don't need many, and so like this group of people it's a fucking great starting point.
That's awesome. I love you're just such a top example of how I love that thing of we can turn individual movement into a social movement. I love it.
We need to as well.
Yeah All right. Well, man. I just feel like staying and chatting and getting another coffee, but we need to wind up. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Madge, and everyone. Stay in touch and have an awesome day. See you all later.
Thanks, everyone.